This is Robert Fritz's Structural Consulting channel. What this is: we present full structural consultations, ones that change people's lives. The idea behind this channel is for you to witness a completely different understanding of the human condition. Here are a few things to know. Structural consulting is not therapy. It is an exploration of the underlying structures in the client's life that produces predictable patterns of behavior. What is structure? Structure is a combination of elements that impact each other. In these sessions, the client's structures are a combination of what they want to create, how reality actually is, and the various concepts that they have. The concepts clients have are usually hidden from them, but these concepts have impact in influencing the client's life patterns. A change of structure will cause a change of the client's patterns. The principle: the underlying structure of anything will determine its behavior. The process involves seeing the actual patterns in the client's life, which leads to a better understanding of the client's underlying structure. The sessions last between 1 or 2 hours. We suggest that if you do decide to watch them, do so when you have time to see the entire process. If you want to see more structure consultations, subscribe to the channel. And here is the session.
What do you want to talk about?
So, I don't know. There's so much to talk about, so I don't really know where to start, honestly. But
Well, it's what you want to think through. That would be a good place to start.
yeah. So I've been doing some prep work in preparation for this session, and I came across recently kind of a breakdown of your path of least resistance.
Mhm.
And I was reading your book a little bit about the creative process, which is something that resonates with me. Um, so I guess let's start with the path of least resistance. One of the things that I think I identified in that breakdown, I didn't read the book, but I was listening to a kind of a synopsis of it. Um, was this idea of the incompatible dominant belief that you are not able to fulfill your desires, and then the rubber band concept of, like, as you're getting closer to achieving that desire, you're getting pulled back by this belief, I think. So maybe we can delve into that a little bit more, because I think some
Okay.
of that is going on with me.
Okay, what is it you think you believe about yourself?
Well, I don't know, like, there's so I think what I'm in my communication with you, I was kind of getting at the idea that some great opportunities have come in my life, and which I pursued and have worked out for a
Okay,
period of
wait.
time.
The question I asked is, what is it you
Yeah.
think you believe about yourself?
Uh,
That's the question I'd like you to answer.
yeah. So I guess what it is I believe is that I believe that I could achieve the goals I want to achieve, but haven't been able to do so. Um, I don't know why, and whether that is something else that is going on in my life, or a belief that I might have that I just haven't really focused on. But um, but I've always believed that I am very capable to achieve the things I want to achieve. I just haven't done so. I mean, to some degree, I have achieved things I've wanted to achieve, but I haven't had the financial success, or not that I necessarily need extreme wealth, but I haven't had sustainable income, I guess is what there hasn't been any stability there. So if I could achieve that, I'll be happy.
Okay, so you haven't actually answered the question yet, but
Mm,
let me show you. I
okay.
picked out your pattern based on the stories that you sent me.
Yeah.
And so what I'd like you to do, what I want to do is go over the pattern with other stories and see if it checks out. Okay.
Okay.
See if you can give me a non-filmmaking story
So,
where you
there
set
was a,
out for something. The form is you
yeah,
set out for something, you had it for a
yeah,
while, and at the end it wasn't a good ending.
great, right. So
I
I
don't want
had,
you to tell, no, I don't want you to tell me the story.
oh,
I
okay.
want you to know the story, the specific story you have in mind. And
Yeah.
then I'll ask you if you did or didn't do the each step of the way. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So you have a story.
Yes.
You had a desire.
Yes.
You found an opportunity.
Yes.
There were some limitations.
Um, limitations as far as what?
I don't know. Some types of limitations.
I don't know how to define it in that context, but um,
Okay, let's move to the next step. You got the result.
yes.
You supported the next steps.
Uh, I think so. I'm
Things
trying
got
to think
better.
it within the context of this story, but
Things got better in this story at that point.
Hmm. I mean, yeah, I think I don't know. I'm not sure if it really.
Okay. You had moderate success at that point.
I did have success. Yeah.
Was there a sudden change?
Yes.
And then you were out?
Yes.
Okay. Can you pick another story, please?
Um.
You know, a typical story, typical stuff that happens.
Okay. Yeah.
You had a desire.
Yeah.
You found an opportunity.
Yes.
There's some limitations.
Yes.
You got the result.
Yes.
You supported the next steps.
Yes.
Things got better.
Um. Yeah.
And then there was some moderate success.
Yes.
And then sudden change.
Yes.
And then you were out.
Yeah.
I think we've got your pattern. It's interesting
I
because
don't.
in your pattern, looks like, things are moving along, and then suddenly there's a sudden change near the end where you're suddenly out.
Yeah.
That I imagine you didn't expect most of the times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
Most. Yeah. Almost all the time.
right. Okay. So anyway, our job is to find what is the underlying structure that gives rise to this predictable pattern of behavior.
Yeah.
What do you tell yourself at the end of one of these episodes?
Um. I think there's self-doubt and some depression and yeah, and then I lose some
What's the,
self-confidence.
think of a specific story. And at that end of that story, what did you tell yourself?
Um, in this specific story, it was the moment I decided, because I did a period of I had a small few years of where I was a teacher. So it was the point where I decided that I wasn't going to be a teacher anymore. So,
That's
and
that's
then so
that's not
that's
what you that's a decision you made. That's not what you told yourself. Explaining to yourself how it was
yeah,
that there was a sudden change and you were out.
yeah. So I guess I don't know. I think I felt in that, or what I was telling myself in that moment was that um this I think I just was telling myself there was just wasn't the path for me.
And why was that? Why was it not the path for you?
Quite honestly, it wasn't. It was more of a going that route into teaching was more of a stepping stone for bigger ambitions. So um, I've always wanted to be a filmmaker and a screenwriter, and so I saw teaching as a way to create a balance of income and then time to focus on those things. So
Well,
um,
perhaps, but that might be so, but you still did the same pattern.
yeah,
So why don't you pick another story where you told yourself, I'm just trying to figure out what you say to
yeah,
yourself, not what decisions you made.
yeah.
Because what you said was, well, my original question was, so then what do you think about yourself? And
Hmm.
you've so far not answered that question.
Is
So
this?
what I'm doing is okay, we get to the end of the story,
Yeah,
and there's a sudden change where you're completely surprised by your rejection, really, or the
yeah.
cancellation, whatever. And you must, in some ways, explain that to yourself somehow.
It's yeah. I mean, it's hard to some things. There's really no explanation. I mean, I maybe this is kind of
Maybe you're missing my question.
no.
I'm not
I think
asking
you're getting at.
about, I'm not asking about what happened.
No, I
I'm
know,
asking about
I know,
how you react to what happened
I
and
know.
and
I
what
think what you're getting at is looking at myself as a victim, and
not
I don't.
necessarily. I just want, I'm
Uh,
not. I'm not.
oh, okay.
Not. I'm asking you a question in which you haven't answered yet. So it couldn't
Uh,
possibly be that I'm asking you about you being a victim, given
yeah,
the question is, what do you tell yourself? And I have no answer. I'm not starting with an answer. I'm starting
yeah,
with a question. What is it you're telling yourself?
yeah, yeah. I don't. I guess I'm telling myself that honestly, I don't know. I think I'm telling myself, sometimes I question if I'm good enough.
Uh, and
Question
good enough in what way?
just in in my abilities to perform whatever the job is,
Mhm.
but then, you know, I get, well, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but um
No, what we're doing is we're thinking it through, and probably it's new territory for you.
yeah,
So, just continue to think it through and try to get to the reality of it.
yeah,
And don't speculate. Well, it could be this,
right,
that, yeah, yeah. Could be Martians landing.
right, right. Well, I mean,
So I
but
mean, how,
I think in those moments my confidence gets shaken, and so I I question what I'm doing, but you know, I work through it, and
how do you work through it? Give yourself a pep talk or cheer yourself up, or
well,
how do
it's
you work? Try to
yeah.
land things.
So I mean, I focus on. I try to like let go of those thoughts that are holding me back and focus on being more like solution oriented. Let's move forward in this direction. Let's just keep moving forward rather than getting
Okay,
hung up on the things that are holding me back. So
so what you're doing though is distracting yourself from what you really think, since you think it's not okay to think what you really think.
yeah, maybe.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think
If,
it. Go
I
ahead.
mean, if you
Go
look
ahead.
at the pattern, it certainly looks like um, this sudden change thing, which is really unusual because it just doesn't look like anything's moving logically in that direction. Sometimes you'll
Right.
see a pattern and people aren't getting along, and then eventually,
Yeah.
things are, moving not brilliantly, but they're moving moderately. And
Hmm.
then suddenly, bam. And, I imagine that you have quite a bit of a reaction to that because it's unexpected for one thing.
Yeah. I mean, some of the things that I just have no control over. I mean, well, I mean, all of it I don't really have much control over, but um, there's some things that I just can't hold on to, and then other things I wonder, well, maybe if I did things differently, I would have had a different outcome. But um, yeah,
So
it's hard to
what you're describing is in light of the conflict, you try to figure out what you could have done differently.
in some
And
cases,
then you try
yes,
to cheer yourself up.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can't, it's not productive to stay depressed about it. So,
Well, is it productive to lie to yourself about what you're feeling?
no, no. And I don't want to say I'm lying to myself. I think I'm just processing it, processing those feelings and letting go of them. But yeah, it's certainly important to recognize.
Well, I mean, since the pattern repeats, I mean, it's not like It happened to me.
I mean, it's
That was
bizarre.
it.
Yeah, the repetition of it is just so bizarre to me as well. Yeah, I guess we have to get to the root of that. I don't understand.
Hmm.
I don't understand that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um. So, I
What is
mean,
it? Okay, what is it about being a filmmaker um, that's important to you? And I'm going to ask this question quite precisely.
yeah,
Because on the one hand, your aspirations are to be a filmmaker, no question.
yeah,
And then on the other hand, there's the identity of being a filmmaker, which is a different thing.
right, right.
What does it say about you being a filmmaker on the identity side?
On the identity side, I guess that's something I've struggled with, honestly. Um, yeah, even though right now I am working as a filmmaker, like I have doing it, but it's still like when people refer to me as a filmmaker, there's a part of me that feels like an imposter.
I see.
So I have that imposter syndrome that, I'm still kind of working through, and it
When you
is
say
still very much my identity, but
when you say you're working through it, what do you mean? How do you work through that?
just accept, yeah, I guess embracing that identity, like, I
Okay, so here's the thing.
yeah,
In reality, you're actually a filmmaker
yeah,
because you make films.
right. Yeah. So I achieved the dream, right? Like that's what I set out to do, and I did it.
I
Um,
don't know. I don't know if you achieved the dream as you're describing it, because in your dream you had success and monetary accomplishment versus
yeah,
simply making film.
right. I mean, yeah, success, success. I just came to this
John,
idea.
listen, John, think it
Yeah.
through. Because what you're doing is you're kind of floundering around, and I'm asking you really specific questions.
Mhm.
And you have to help me out here. You have to think it through.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Be more disciplined here. Okay.
Yeah.
You actually are a filmmaker. So any notion of pretending you aren't, or, couldn't be accurately accurate in reality.
Right.
Now, whether you're actually a filmmaker or not, in reality is answered. Because you make film. What is the imposter thing about? Given in reality, you actually are a filmmaker. Did you get my distinction in question?
I think so.
Okay.
Um, so you were asking, what's the imposter about?
Yeah, because the imposter thing is about your identity, and the way you have it cooked up is that in your identity, you're not up to being or worthy of or something of being a filmmaker. So the fact that you make film doesn't even inoculate you from
Yeah.
whatever that thing is.
Right. Right.
So whatever that thing is what I'm trying to get more definition around.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah. 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 No,
So
I guess
I'm, I'm
it ties back to what you were saying about success. And um, even though I'm doing
okay.
what I'm doing, there's a feeling of less than, I guess.
It's not a
So,
feeling, it's a reality that um, you're not where you want to be economically as a filmmaker, or maybe even in terms of volume of filmmaking. I don't know, but
yeah.
that's not a feeling. That's actually part of the what's going on, right?
Yeah. 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 Absolutely.
Yeah. So, what's this thing about success then?
Yeah. I guess I think part of it was since I wasn't finding success financially, it was more about, you know, the actual creating process. And if I was creating, I felt successful. So
What?
I detached myself from this idea of like needing to make money, but
No, you don't.
I
No, you
need to
don't.
make
No,
money.
no, John, you don't. You have two different things going on. One is you actually aspire to making film, independent of the circumstances. That's what you want. That's like a
Yeah.
true desire. On the other hand, you give it meaning, and the level of success you have with it becomes symbolic of something. Do you see that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what does it symbolize? What does your level of success symbolize?
Currently,
Always.
with this always.
Yeah. It's not going to change. The symbol
Yeah.
won't change. God, today it's this and tomorrow it's that. It's not going to change.
Yeah.
So what does it symbolize? I mean, if you were successful, what would that symbolize? What meaning would that have?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's tied to my identity as a filmmaker, but
You're not being specific. You're telling me the category. It's like, okay, we're in the ballpark, but we don't know where the seat is.
right. I guess I'm just kind of working my way through it to kind of figure out what the specific answer would be. But so
Well, I'll tell you what. What's the opposite of success?
failure.
Hmm.
So yeah, I guess maybe I feel that sometimes.
What would make you a failure?
Oh.
Now, I want to make another distinction, okay?
Yeah,
People can fail and not think that they're failures. People can succeed and think they're failures.
right,
So when I
right.
ask you the question, what would make you a failure? If you tell me about a list of all the times you failed, it doesn't really answer the question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you sometimes do you feel like a failure?
Sometimes.
Mhm.
Yeah,
When don't you?
sometimes. Um, in my personal life, I feel pretty successful. Professionally, it's been hard, but um,
Well, you know, you have two different patterns. You have one that's a different structure in your personal life.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So focusing on the professional side of
Mm.
things, like I'm, I've been very successful with clients, specific clients and projects. Um, but
It's interesting, though. What you said is when you're successful, you feel like an imposter. You didn't
yeah,
quite, no, I know you didn't quite say it that way,
right,
but it sort of like adds to that, doesn't
right, right.
it? You got away with it.
Yeah. No, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah, it's been emotional for me. Even doing the prep work for you.
In what way was it?
Um, I think just the feeling of being a failure. And
Yeah. Okay. I want to show you something structure that I think you're in. So let's say you have this unwanted belief. Let me start again. And that belief is really unacceptable to you. And so what you do is you create an ideal of how you should be. And in this case, the ideal is to be a successful filmmaker in this case, but not necessarily only in this case.
right,
And the point of the ideal is to hide the belief from yourself. So when, for example, you in your pattern, when there's a sudden change and you're suddenly out,
yeah,
what you try to do is you react to that you're a failure and you try to cheer yourself up and distract yourself and learn from lessons and how can you do, try to figure out logistically how next time out you can really succeed and thereby live up to the ideal. So this is
yeah,
called the ideal reality, the ideal belief reality conflict. Because then there's
hmm,
reality. And what often happens in this structure is that you have a list of experiences that are designed to live up to the ideal. So any projects that worked or, any successes that you may have had
mm,
structurally are designed to reinforce the ideal, but the point of the ideal is to contradict the belief.
mm,
And
okay,
and the belief that the reason for that is the belief is unacceptable, so you want to keep it hidden from yourself.
Hmm.
Does it make sense?
Yeah. So so how do we eliminate this unwanted belief?
You
I
don't.
guess is the question. Yeah.
No, I want you to understand. You don't. You're going to think whatever you think.
Yeah.
Question is it relevant to your creative process? What you believe about yourself?
No.
I mean,
I
in
mean,
reality, the answer is no.
yeah.
But what you need to do, though, is become fluent in your belief about yourself. So you're not hiding it for you. That whole dynamic is to reject what you think about yourself versus just see, oh, that's what I happen to think about myself. And now on with it. But I want you to look at your life, though, and see if in different ways this belief has shown up or been a dynamic. I'm thinking when you get
Yeah.
into things, do you have, besides the promise of the opportunity, do you have I better not screw up or I better, make sure it succeeds because otherwise, do you have that kind of feeling from,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm.
So I'm, I'm extremely, hard worker and probably
Yeah, but
put
some of
much,
that hard work is your ingenuity.
yeah.
And some of it is a compensating strategy for your belief about yourself to make up for, if you were
Yeah.
like other people, you wouldn't have to do it. You wouldn't have to work so hard, or you wouldn't have to be so careful,
Right.
or you wouldn't have to probably plan so much, or make sure all your I's are dotted and T's are crossed.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's totally me.
yeah, okay. So I think we pretty much know what's going on. Now the question is, how do we work with it? And the way we work with it is for you to really teach yourself what you believe about yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
There we go.
So in normal culture, what you would do is try to prove to yourself you're a big success and you list all of the successes and so on. But all that does is backfires because it points to why would you need to be proving that to yourself? And the answer is
Yeah.
because you really think you're fundamentally a failure.
Mm. Yeah.
Or you would try to do affirmations, I'm a big success, I'm a success. It's positive. And all that
Right.
does backfire too.
Right. Right.
So this is quite different. This is actually just getting to know what you think about yourself so that it's no longer hidden from yourself and no longer dynamic in what happens.
Yeah.
So I want you to say a number of times to yourself, just to yourself, um, I'm a failure. And the reason you're saying it to yourself is you've actually discovered through our discussion that's what you actually think about yourself.
Mm.
And rather than try to hide it from yourself, you're just basically putting a spotlight on it.
Yeah.
It's not designed, by the way, for it to go away or for it to change. It's just to say, well, that's what I happen to think.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
To
And
myself.
yeah, say it out loud.
I'm a failure. I'm I'm a failure. Uh, I'm a failure.
And that's when you were cooking up the stories for me, when you said you started to feel emotional reaction.
Yeah,
That's probably some of the reactions you were feeling.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, that's the general feeling I think I have, but at the same time, I know it's not entirely rational because a lot of this was out of my control. But you know, it's I see how it's interfering moving forward.
Well, listen, there's no way to define a human being. So the reason you're not going to change your mind about this, if you lived in Omaha, you know you lived in Omaha
Yeah,
because it's an objective fact. If you moved to Chicago, know that you no longer lived in Omaha. You now live in Chicago. And you could really change your understanding of that. But since there's no way to define a human being, it's not like some objective fact is going to come along and say, even if, by the way, you became a huge success and won the Oscars or whatever,
yeah,
it's not,
right.
the weird thing is it still would not change.
Mm,
But does it matter what you think about yourself in relationship to what you want to accomplish?
mm. I would say no, but somehow I feel like it interferes with.
Well, it interferes because you fight it.
Mm, can you say more about that?
Well, if you really got this, you'd think, for somebody who's a failure, I'm doing all right. It
Yeah.
wouldn't be symbolic of how well you did with each project.
Mm,
Let me,
right.
let me show you how this works. So you have a dynamic urge. That's your aspirations and values.
Mhm,
There's reality, and there's your concept.
mhm,
And so this structure strives for equilibrium. This is like the two rubber band thing. So let's say you're here and here's just, let me start this again. Come on. So as you move toward, the outcome you want, this is either two different tension resolution systems. And as you get to the outcome, this one is resolved, but this one is the most tense. And so success is not sustainable because what the structure is looking for is equilibrium.
right.
So this becomes a feedback system. And now, if I take away the concept,
Mhm,
what I'm left with is my desire, my dynamic urge, and reality. And that's structural tension. That's where you have, like when you make a film, you have an
Yeah.
idea of film, you have the current reality, whatever it is, you take action to bring the film into place. And that's not resolvable. I mean, rather, that doesn't oscillate. That is resolvable. Now, the belief itself doesn't go away. It's just no longer in the structure.
Mhm.
So I have this tripod. If I take away one of the legs, the underlying structure changes, leads to a different behavior. The leg I taken away
Right.
doesn't disappear. It's just no longer in the structure.
Right.
So you're understanding that you think you're a failure. If it's in the structure, will create the oscillating pattern. If it's not in the structure, like it is often in your personal life, you have a different pattern of behavior.
Yeah.
Now, I know, we've all grown up with hearing that what we think about ourselves matter and it will, you have to have high self-esteem and blah, blah, blah. Just simply not true.
Yeah.
And incidentally, most of the people that have been the most accomplished in the world have not had high self-esteem.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's really interesting, actually.
So here you are, and you think you're a failure, and whether you like it or not, you're always going to think that, period. And if you really get that, and you really see that it's not relevant to what you want to accomplish and what your values are, what your aspirations are, and your ability to be in reality, then it's a different structure.
Yeah.
So look, over and over, say I'm a failure a number of more times. And as you say it, just don't say it with this kind of chip on your shoulder. I don't want to be a failure.
Yeah.
Just say it like like you acknowledge something you see,
Yeah. Okay.
right?
I'm a failure. I'm a failure. I'm a
Slow it
failure.
down. Slow it down.
I'm a failure. I'm a failure. I'm a failure. I'm a failure.
You see it?
I'm a failure. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You still want to make film though, right?
Yeah.
And you would like it to be as successful as it can be. Why?
Absolutely.
Yeah. But it's not a personal thing, if you know what I mean. It's just what you think about yourself can be independent. Every single project you make.
Hmm. Yeah.
How are you? What's going on now? How are you feeling about it? How are you thinking about it? What are you experiencing?
I think it's really fascinating. I'm also like I'm uh, I'm curious as like when this started for me. Like I don't feel like this is a belief I had my entire life.
Does it
Uh,
matter?
no,
You catch a cold. Does it help you if you know where it came from?
no.
No,
Right.
I think the reason you're having those questions is because you're trying to have control over it, and you don't have any control over it. You can change your belief if you had control over it.
Yeah.
It's not like you'd pick to feel that or think that.
Yeah. Yeah.
In your pattern, you go into a situation, and at the back of your mind, you've got, by the way, at least two things going on. One is you want success for whatever the project is. I mean, the other thing is you're afraid you're going to fail.
Right.
I take
Yeah.
away, I take away the I'm a failure thing. You just know you are. Okay, so what? this desire doesn't go away.
Right.
And
Right.
and it's a worthy aspiration. And more importantly, it's what you want, actually.
Yeah. 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 Uh, so I guess what I noticed with this pattern and understanding this belief is that it's impacted my confidence to put myself out there more. And, you know, I've had a
Well, confidence is only equal to the past history of track record. So I
right,
don't try to, don't try to adopt a new platitude of confidence. There's no particular reason you should have confidence. There is a particular reason you should put yourself out there because you might get more gigs.
right, right. Yeah, I mean, it's
You see,
of
though, how
course,
you're still trying to tie it into your identity because confidence has to do with identity. It doesn't have to do with can you make a good film for your clients.
right. Got it. Okay. That makes sense.
By the way, can you make a good film for your clients in reality?
Absolutely.
So, okay,
Absolutely. Yeah.
you know, so there you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. I just, so if I could just bring this up, because there's something that occurred recently that kind of like, that I felt guilty about for myself. Um, so a lot of the opportunities that have come to my life have come to me naturally through word of mouth or whatever. Several things that I've pursued on my own have not worked out. So I'm in the process of launching a business, a company, um, video marketing company. And I was at this summit last week where I was sitting in a room with a number of potential clients, potentially. They opened up the floor for people to share to try to create these partnerships. And I saw the opportunity to do that, and I didn't. I was
Mhm.
hesitant, and I wouldn't. And then I was like kicking myself, like, why didn't I take advantage?
Well,
And
we
I
know why.
feel, yeah, now I know why. Right.
You know why too at this point, don't you?
I do, yeah.
Because you made it about you, not them ending up with a film that you might make.
Right. Right. And I mean,
You see how your focus that moment was not only the reality that you can make good films, but that it was about you and how you thought you were and how you thought that mattered.
yeah, yeah. I mean, this is exactly what I need to hear, but yes, you're right. Um,
So in a situation like that, they can either say yes or no to you.
right.
So you were unwilling to put yourself in a situation where they could say no to you and therefore reinforce your belief about yourself that you're a failure.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
And that's all that happened.
Yeah.
It's you know what? It's not more deeply psychological than that.
Right. Right.
This is why it's so important that if you really master your own opinion about yourself, become fluent in it. Don't try to play games with it and try to, figure it out or, try to know anything more about it than you need to know, which is that's what you think.
Yeah.
And just, it's not even coming to accept it. Accepting it is a way of rejecting it.
Mm,
It's observing it and calling it like it is.
yeah. Yeah. Is there some, I mean, that's, even though that's my personal belief, is it not grounded in reality? I
Uh,
guess because,
well, I mean, the thing
well,
about it is sometimes you fail and sometimes you don't.
right.
Symbols are not about reality. Symbols are never about reality.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's no way of defining a human being in reality.
Right. Yes.
So when you say, isn't it true in reality? Can't it's neither true nor not true in reality since there's no way of defining a human being in reality. It's a
Yeah.
concept. You don't have concepts when you know the facts. You don't have a concept of what color your eyes are, do you? Or do you just happen to know?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are you still fighting it? Is that why you're asking these questions? Or
I think it's me coming to terms with this understanding.
okay,
And
so what tell me, John, what more do you need to understand?
I don't think I don't know. I don't think I do. I think it's pretty clear at this point that,
You
yeah,
know, it's not that you have to like it. It's that you have to see it.
yeah, yeah, and not allow it to define me, right? So,
No, I think you should
because
allow it to, I think it totally should define you. That's the whole point. It's the way you define yourself. It does define you. You just tried to make it about definition. So if you had a successful film, that could now define you. Do you see how you're still kind
mm,
of working it?
right, 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 right. Well, I guess I'm just trying to figure out how to live with it. Right. Um,
Well, how do you live with it?
by seeing it, and
Yeah. I mean, if it's accurate, if it's true that you think that, whether you like it or not,
um,
there's no reason to hide it from yourself. And there is a reason to know what you think so that it doesn't become part of the dynamic in your oscillating pattern.
mm,
Let
try
me ask
to
you this. If
remove.
you had it to do all over again, now knowing what you know, and you're at that meeting, would you in fact offer your services?
Yes.
Yeah. And why would you
Yeah.
do?
Because I know I'd be able to make a good film, and it wouldn't be about me. It'd be about them.
Yeah, you want to make a film.
Yeah.
And it's a match between what they're looking for and what you offer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's
look,
really helpful.
if in reality you're a good filmmaker, you make good films, you know how to make films. No matter what you think about yourself, in reality, you know how to make films. If they
Right.
were looking for films to be made from a marketing point of view, and you know how to do that, independent of
Yeah.
what you think about yourself, there's a good match there for the basis of having a business.
Right. 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 Right.
Can you do a quick survey of your life and see how many times this has screwed you up?
Multiple, multiple. I think not even personally with like, you know, early on in my life and relationships, but like professionally a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I found it extremely difficult. I got to the point where I just couldn't go on another job interview. I just because it was
Yeah.
I felt like it was self-sabotage. I was self-sabotaging
Okay.
myself.
Well, you see it then. You see it. There it is.
Yeah. So I just felt like more comfortable working for myself and yeah. But even then it was like when I had to like when it came to like putting myself out there,
Hmm.
it was a struggle. So but now I see it. But when with the building of this new company, what's really interesting is the company is designed to be about my clients, not about me. And I found
Good.
that easier.
Well, there.
And but being in that position at that meeting last week, it was like I was getting self-conscious. And
Well, I'm glad it, I'm glad, in a way, I'm glad it happened because it gives you an illustration of exactly the structural dynamic that we're looking at.
yeah,
You know, I'm not glad that it happened for your sake, but I'm glad
right,
that for you that you had that experience of this structure imposing on your aspirations.
right.
I mean, that's how seriously the structure matters in your life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is really interesting, really
How
fascinating.
how clear is it to you right now? What's going on?
It's super clear. Like, um, for I could never understand why things just haven't worked out for me. And I could never understand what it was about myself that was getting in the way or stopping that. But now it seems like we've we've kind of identified the issue. And
The thing I hope you also understand is that it doesn't matter what you think about yourself. That's, I
yeah,
think, something you need to come to understand. When I say to you, are you a good filmmaker? You tell me you are. And by the way, I believe you are. Then this has nothing to do with your identity. It has to do with the skill set that you have,
right.
independent of whatever you think about yourself. I wouldn't know what you would if I were the client, would it matter to me what you think about yourself?
Right. Yeah. Probably not. Yeah.
Did you say probably not?
Yeah. No, it wouldn't.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
I think in a way you're still connecting it. I'm trying to dissuade you from that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I appreciate that because you're right. And I get it. I mean, this for the first time in my life, I get it. Like I never looked at it and through this lens before.
Mm. Yeah. And there's a reason you were not able to look through this lens before, because the unwanted belief generates an ideal to contradict the unwanted belief because it's unacceptable
Mm,
versus just seeing it for what it is.
right.
You know, stay in reality. And in reality, does it matter what you think about yourself?
No. No.
Okay. I think we're done. Do you think we're done?
I think so. Yeah, I think this has been really good.
Can you give us a report for people watching this? Can you give us a report about what it's like going through the session and where you are now in relationship to our original questions?
Yeah. So going through this process today was really eye-opening and provided a lot of clarity as to an issue I wasn't even really aware of. Um, it was definitely a belief that I was carrying and holding, but then masking, as you said, with this ideal perspective, and then but developing the understanding that that doesn't really matter, and it doesn't really like I could just continue to perform despite what I think about myself is kind of liberating and free,
I think the better word than despite is independent of.
independent of. Yeah,
Yeah, isn't that more clear? It's like
yeah,
I take away the leg from the tripod. The leg I've taken away is independent of the other two legs that are still connected.
right.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Anything else that we need to say?
No, no, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Great. No, stay on the line, and I'm going to stop the recording now,
Okay.
and then we can say goodbye offline.